Bear of the Woods by Lale Sanem Shikajiolu. Once upon a time, in the farthest reaches of remote villages, there lived a little girl named Breeze. Breeze had a big and loving family. Breeze was the youngest of 3 siblings. She had 2 older brothers. Her grandparents were also living with them. She had her mother, father, and her beloved dog, Latte, with her. What else could a little girl need in this world? Her whole family loved her, and Breeze loved them too. She was sure they would lead a happy life together. Breeze's family home was in a village at the foot of the largest mountain in the country. An emerald creek flowed right next to their house. Turtles and crabs, tiptoeing out of that creek, would slowly find their way to Breeze's house, where it was warm and safe. Breeze was not afraid of any animal. She loved all animals as much as she loved Latte. Breeze's dad was a woodcutter. He used to go to the forest early every morning till evening and cut down the old trees that were about to migrate from this world. He cut down only the oldest, dying trees. He never touched young and healthy trees. Therefore, the balance of the forest was never disturbed. In this way, the forest had always been home to many animals, as well as cheerful, lush forest full of trees. Breeze's older brothers went to school every day. Breeze didn't go to school because she was younger. However, she was eager to grow up and go to school with her brothers as soon as possible. Breeze's grandfather, meanwhile, spent most of his days in the village. There were children in the village without parents. Grandfather would take care of them from morning to night, telling them stories. The arrival of Breeze's grandfather, father, and older brothers after a long day in the village would take place after dark. By this time, Breeze would be at home with her mother and grandmother. Of course, Latte was also with them. Grandma knew herbs very well. She would describe them to Breeze's dad, and he would collect medicinal herbs from the forest and bring them to Grandma. Grandma made panacea ointments and syrups with those herbs. Whoever got sick in the village came to her first. Her gentle knowledge healed the patient immediately. She had a whole room full of ointment and syrup, and she spent all her days making them with real tenderness. Breeze's mother, on the other hand, took care of the housework and tried to keep the house clean and warm at all times. She cooked delicious meals and played games with Breeze in her spare time. Right next to Breeze and her family's house, there was a steep path leading into the woods. In the spring, both sides of the path were filled with mountain strawberries. Breeze, her mother, and Latte would all walk along the path and pick wild strawberries. However, they always turned around before entering the forest. Breeze's mother was afraid of animals in the forest. Breeze was never afraid, but her mother was. Her fear was not because she did not love them. In fact, she loved the animals of the forest and in the stream as much as she loved Latte. She didn't want any animals to get hurt, but she couldn't touch all of them like Breeze. She also thought that the animals in the forest could be dangerous. Breeze couldn't understand her mother's fear, but she couldn't help her with it either. Unlike her mother, she stroked crabs and kissed turtles. Breeze even loved bugs. She wouldn't let anyone kill the bugs. She would immediately catch the insect and protect it in her palms. Then she would rush out and drop the insect on the ground. And she said, "This is your home, little bug. You must be on the ground, not in our house. Come on now, go to your family and don't go into people's houses again, okay? I don't want anyone to hurt you." Breeze loved animals very much. A lot. If possible, she could gather all the animals in her house and play with them from morning to night. Everyone loved animals, but Breeze loved them more than anyone. Even in her dreams, she would jump rope with goats and kangaroos and play hide and seek with wolves and hyenas. The dreams in which she would climb trees with the help of elephant trunks and having tea parties with monkeys were her favourite dreams. That's why, whenever turtles and crabs came out of the creek near their house, Breeze would immediately put Latte on the ground next to them, take out the toy sets, and play tea parties with them. Latte did not harm the turtle and crab at all. First she would take a sniff, then she would sit quietly in her place. Breeze drank tea with them for a long time. On the other hand, she could never be quiet. She was always telling stories to the animals. The animals listened carefully to Breeze. They just stood there without moving. Breeze would put some cookies in front of Latte, some lettuce in front of the turtle, and some algae she picked up from the creek in front of the crab. They would enjoy tea together. The game would continue until her mother called Breeze. When mother called, Breeze would get up softly, collect the tea sets, and go to her mother. Latte followed too. Crab and turtle would return to the creek. Breeze knew animals like crabs, turtles, goats, and dogs very well, but she didn't actually know the animals in the forest that her mother was afraid of. Even though she didn't know them, she thought she must love them very much too, because she loved all animals. She loved them the most because she saw them in her dreams. The days were very pleasant for Breeze. She loved her family and her home very much. She thought she was a very lucky little girl. However, one day something bad happened. Early in the morning, Breeze and her family were having breakfast when the doorbell rang. Who could it be this early in the morning? Breeze's mother rushed to the door. There at the door were 3 men, village guards, strong men of different ages. The men had a frightened look. Breeze's mother promptly invited them in and offered tea to the men who came. The oldest of the men leaned forward and, after catching his breath, began to explain in an excited and confused way. "We are so sorry to trouble you at this time of the morning. However, something very bad has happened. A bear descended from the forest to the village. He roams around the village shouting. The villagers don't know what to do. Everyone is looking for a hole to hide in until he's gone. The bear screams so loudly that no one dares come near it." Hearing this, Breeze and her family did not know what to say. Nothing like this had ever happened in this village before. Everyone looked at each other in surprise. The oldest guardian of the village continued to speak. "We gathered as village guards and made a decision. We need to do something to stop this bear. Tonight, together with all the men of the village, we will seek and find the bear. We'll take him prisoner afterwards. We have no other choice. If we don't do this, he will hurt us." Hearing what the old guardian said, Breeze was very upset. They were going to take the bear prisoner. Breeze didn't want any animals imprisoned. She felt they all had to be free, always. And while she had never met a bear before, she felt like she knew that the bear was not bad. Her heart said so. "All animals are good," said Breeze's heart. If only she could see the bear and talk to him, she thought. If she met the bear, she thought she could immediately talk to the bear and tell him to get away from the village in case he got hurt. After the village guards left, the men of the house left to start their day. Breeze was home with her mother and grandma. She was very upset and couldn't say a word. Seeing this state of her, her mother was also upset. She came to her daughter and asked, "You're feeling sorry for the bear, aren't you, Breeze?" "Yes, they will take him prisoner." "I know, Breeze, this is a very sad thing. However, sometimes we have to do sad things to protect ourselves and our loved ones. This is such a situation. If we don't take the bear prisoner, he will hurt us." "How do you know, Mother? He hasn't hurt anyone so far. He was just shouting. That's what the old guardian said." "I heard him too. Just because the bear hasn't done anything yet doesn't mean he won't. Besides, it seems that he's always screaming and scaring people." "Maybe he has a problem, Ma." "Breeze, even if he has a problem, no one can come near him because everyone is so afraid of him. There is nothing we can do. Sometimes in life there are moments like this. We must do what is right for the good of all. If only the bear could talk and tell us what he wanted, it might be different. However, animals can't talk, so it isn't possible." Breeze ran to her room in tears without saying anything else to her mother. Latte followed too. Breeze hugged Latte and sobbed. "I don't want the bear to be imprisoned, Latte. He is no different from you. He can be my friend too. I love him too. We haven't met yet, but I still love him very much. I don't want him to be imprisoned, just as I don't want you to be imprisoned, Latte. You understand me, don't you?" Latte understood Breeze. She licked Breeze for a long time and then lay on her lap. They both fell asleep right there at the foot of Breeze's bed. While Breeze was sleeping, she had a dream. In her dream, she was in the forest. She was sitting under a huge cedar tree. The weather was beautiful and sunny. A pink picnic blanket was spread over the ground. There were also tea sets on the blanket and a jar with honey in it. A bear was sitting across from Breeze, a big brown bear. She was having a tea party with the bear. Breeze was spooning honey from the jar on the picnic blanket and offering it to the bear. The bear ate well, but it was as if he was a little sad. He had both eyes closed and was constantly rubbing his eyes. Breeze wondered and asked, "Did something happen to my teddy bear's eyes? And why do you look so sad?" Just then, it got dark in the forest. Dark clouds had come over Breeze and the bear. It started to rain in torrential form. The bear was saying something to Breeze, but Breeze couldn't hear him over the roar of the storm. "I can't hear you, teddy bear. Say it again." Breeze awoke to her mother's voice. Mother was calling her into the kitchen. Breeze looked around. It was already dark. Who knew how long she slept? What a strange dream it was, she thought. However, she felt much better now. She was very happy to see that dream. She didn't feel sad anymore. Breeze went downstairs to the kitchen. Her mother was preparing the dinner table, and Breeze cheerfully helped her mother. Then her grandmother, mother, and Breeze sat down to dinner. "Fathers will be arriving late tonight, Breeze. They're helping the village guards, so let's have our dinner," said her mother. Breeze's heart broke again when her mother said that, but then she immediately remembered the dream she had. When she remembered the dream, she was filled with joy again. When they were almost at the end of their meal and had begun to listen to an old story that Grandma was telling about a time she'd healed a neighbour from blindness, a voice came from the door of their house. It sounded like someone was trying to open the door. Whenever there was a knock on the door or a sound, Latte would run to the door and start barking. However, Latte didn't do that this time. She ran to the door but never barked. She sniffed the door a little, then came and sat down next to Breeze. She fixed her eyes on Breeze. It was as if she was upset about something and was asking Breeze for help. Meanwhile, the voices kept coming from the door. Strangely, whoever was at the door wasn't knocking or calling in. It was as if he was trying to open the door by reaching. Breeze, her mother and grandmother were staring at the door in amazement. The mother walked boldly towards the door and opened it softly. As she opened the door, she jumped back from where she was. The woman could not even speak out of fear. She quickly ran back to Breeze and Grandma. There was a bear at the door. A huge brown bear was just standing there. He was growling, just as the village guards had told them. But in fact, it didn't sound like he was shouting so much as moaning. The poor bear was moaning like he was hurt. Breeze nearly swallowed her little tongue in surprise. Nobody was talking. The dream she had suddenly came to Breeze's mind. At that moment, her face lit up and she turned to her mother and said, "There's nothing to fear, Mother. The bear is hurting. That's why he's been roaring." Granny took a few steps towards the bear. Then she sighed. "Yes, Breeze is telling the truth. I saw it carefully. Something has happened to both of its eyes. Gosh, what can we do? This poor animal is suffering." Breeze immediately ran to her grandmother. "You can heal him, Grandma. You heal everyone. You can also heal the bear. You were just telling a story about how you healed the neighbour's eyes. Please heal the bear, Grandma. Please." "Breeze, I can heal him, but how do I approach him? What if he attacks me?" "No, Grandma, he won't attack. The bear came to ask for help. You already know that he hasn't attacked anyone. The village guard uncle said so. Nothing will happen. I will be with you. Bring your ointments as soon as possible." Grandma went straight to the room where her ointments were. Meanwhile, the teddy bear, who was in a state of pain, laid on the ground. Breeze slowly began to approach the bear. In fact, Breeze had never seen a bear before. She only saw him in her dreams, yet she was not afraid at all. Her mother, meanwhile, was very afraid. "Breeze, be careful, my girl. What if the bear does something to you?" "Don't worry, Ma. I will talk to him." Then she said to the bear, "Dear teddy bear, I'm coming to heal you. Don't be afraid of me, okay? Soon my grandmother will come too. She will put an ointment on your wounds and you will be fine." The teddy bear continued to moan from where he was lying. Breeze got closer to the bear. She got down on her knees and started petting the bear's head. The bear didn't move at all. He wasn't doing anything to scare Breeze. He was lying down quietly. Grandma came to them after a while. When she looked closely, she saw that the bear's eyes looked very sore. She was a little afraid to touch the bear at first, but she immediately got over her fear and started to clean the bear's eyes well. Then she applied her ointments. The bear lay gently while she attended to him. When Grandma's work was done, the bear had already fallen asleep. Breeze and her grandmother left him to sleep. In the meantime, the mother brought some water and honey and left them near to the bear for him to eat when he woke up. Breeze, her mother and her grandmother were very worried that night though. They knew that when Breeze's father, grandfather and brothers returned, they would find the bear there and try to catch him. So they decided to wait for them at the table. Meanwhile, the bear was sound asleep and no longer groaned. Hours passed. Still the boys and men had not returned. Breeze, her mother and grandmother, couldn't stay awake any longer and fell asleep where they were. A long time after, the door made a sound and they all jumped. Breeze's mother immediately leapt up to tell the returning family members what had happened. But what should she see? The bear was not there anymore. The water and honey pots she left were also empty. The teddy bear had his fill and left. Breeze's father said, "We searched the whole village but could not find the bear. We are very tired. We'll continue the search tomorrow." Then Grandmother said, "Don't worry, son. You can't find the bear anymore. The bear came here with injured eyes. We treated him and he fell asleep. Shortly after that, we did too. We woke up when you came. The bear is long gone." The men and boys looked at each other in amazement. All of this was unbelievable. The father looked at the mother curiously. Then Mother said, "Something astonishing also happened. Breeze seemed to be talking to the bear. Then she went to him and started to pet him. The bear stood still. Meanwhile, your mother treated him. I really don't think the bear will come back." And it was true. Nobody saw the bear again. Weeks passed, and Breeze and her family continued their happy lives. As the weather was cool, Breeze's family didn't spend much time in the garden. However, Breeze did. She loved the garden and enjoyed running around with Latte. One day at noon, Breeze and Latte were playing in the garden. Ma was cooking. Grandma was preparing one of her famous ointments. Big brothers were at school. Dad and Grandpa were out, as usual, but they were on their way home since it was almost time for lunch. Breeze and Latte were playing very happily. Then Latte suddenly stopped with a startle. She turned her head towards the road and started barking. Breeze couldn't understand why Latte was suddenly restless. Latte was barking with all her might. Breeze also looked towards the road and thought that she vaguely saw someone. The garden of their house was very large, and at the end of the garden she could see the beginning of the dirt road leading into the village. However, because the garden was so large, Breeze couldn't quite make out who she was seeing. In fact, she realized it was time for her father and grandfather to come home, but Latte would never have barked if they were there. On the contrary, she would be happy and start running towards them. The stranger was fast approaching Breeze. Breeze could see him now. The person coming towards her was a strange man about her father's age. The man suddenly began to shout, "Call your father, girl. Is your father at home?" Breeze was stunned, not knowing what to say. The strange man was speaking very angrily. Breeze was scared. The man shouted again, "I'm telling you, do you not hear? Call your father now." Hearing the shouts, the mother and grandmother also went out and froze when they saw the strange man. His anger was making them frightened, but Latte was not frightened. She lashed out at the strange man. The loyal puppy would do anything to protect her family. The man kept shouting, "You healed the bear. Who are you to interfere in my business? You ruined all my plans. The bear was going to go blind in a few days, and I could easily catch him and take him prisoner. Then I could make him do whatever I wanted. I was going to make performances with the bear and make a lot of money. Do you know how much money I would have made? Of course you don't. Why did you interfere in my business? Give me an answer. And while you're at it, give me the money I would have earned if I'd caught the bear." The mother and grandmother began to tremble with fear. They didn't know what to do. The man was getting closer. As Breeze had never had such a thing happen to her in her whole life, she had no idea what was going on. But then Breeze's father and grandfather appeared at the end of the garden. Seeing them, her mother and grandmother relaxed a little. Her father started running as soon as he saw the stranger. At the same time, he was shouting, "Who are you? What are you doing in my garden?" The stranger replied at once, "I have come to take what's mine. You healed the bear I was going to catch. I was going to make a lot of money with him. I couldn't do it because of you. You will give that money to me. Otherwise, it will be very bad for you." He was waving his hands menacingly as he uttered his last sentence. But Breeze's father was very brave and jumped on the strange man with a fury. Immediately, grandfather did too. Latte also ran to them, barking, to help father and grandfather. Breeze, her mother and grandmother could see nothing but dust and smoke, and of course they heard the shouts. Suddenly, Breeze decided to join them. She ran into the dust, but something hit her and she heard a crack. She realized that she had broken her arm. Her mother and grandmother began to cry and scream. The men who were fighting with each other stopped fighting for a moment. Even Latte stopped barking and froze in place. Breeze lay pale and hurting on the ground. Just then, a howl was heard, and then the roar of the bear. Everyone turned and looked towards the forest. And what did they see? The brown bear they treated weeks ago came ambling into the garden. He was followed by a pack of wolves, along with many friendly rabbits, snakes, and butterflies. Together, they all descended into Breeze's garden. The bear started running towards the strange man. Seeing this, the stranger began to run away without looking back. He disappeared in a very short time, and the villagers later caught him. But for now, the brown bear quietly approached Breeze and took her in his arms. All the forest animals came to stand beside him. Breeze's family watched the animals silently and curiously. While Breeze was being held warm in the bear's lap, a snake curled up on Breeze's arm. It wound around her arm and reset the bone. A moment later, Breeze opened her eyes again. When she saw that she was in the brown bear's lap, she knew that she was safe, and she noticed that her arm did not hurt anymore. She smiled and hugged the bear tightly. The whole family was crying with happiness. Breeze was also very happy. She was very happy both to see the brown bear and the other animals, and to know that everything was fine. The brown bear gently lowered Breeze from his lap. Then he slowly returned to the forest with the other animals. Breeze and her family watched the brown bear and his friends depart with a sense of wonder and awe. The strange man never harmed any animal again. Breeze also lived a very happy life forever with her family and animal friends. The end. Thank you for reading with Storyberries.com. Free stories for kids.